Good afternoon, and
Yeah.
welcome to another episode of Pillars of Franchising. I'm your host, Kristin Selmeczy, and with me today is Karen Kimsey-Sward. We've got a great guest for you today. We're going to talk to Chris Coleman of True North Restoration. I apologize, I'm coming to you with a cold today, so please bear with me. But first, before we get to Chris, let's talk about word on the street, Karen.
Sounds good to me. Been scouring, trying to find some new news out there. And we've
Yeah,
had a
it
lot
seemed a
of this.
little seemed a
Pardon
little
me?
quiet at first, didn't it?
I know. There wasn't much going on. And one of the things I was taking a look at, I was looking at National Restaurant News, and they always have some good articles. And
Yeah.
there's been so much about the economy, the impact of the economy and restaurants, the food service business. And I always like to look for good news because there's always like in it, right? There always seems to be
Yeah.
not so good news these past months, especially third quarter. And so I
For
found some
sure.
glimmer of good news.
Oh, really? What did you find? Do tell.
I did. So, most of the restaurants, have seen really kind of a decline in kind of traffic gains.
Yeah.
And so two restaurants that are kind of different from each other have reported traffic gains over 4%. And
Is
I'm not going to let you guess because we've already talked about this. Those two
right.
restaurants are Chipotle and Texas Roadhouse. And
And
I
is
just thought that was an odd combination, isn't it?
yeah, totally. Because you and I agreed, like, well, I go to both, you don't necessarily go to both. And so we tried to figure out between the two of us, what are some of the things that they're doing differently?
Exactly. And so I loved it because the article, one of the things I thought was interesting is they always say when if there's like a recession, and when they talked about like 2008 and 9, and
Yep.
even now, a lot of restaurants start focusing on like value meals, discounts, coupons. And
Yep.
what's interesting is these two restaurants or these two groups, they don't focus on that. And they
No,
really
they
take a look at
don't.
the value a different way.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is that I can't say that their prices have not gone up and their portions have gotten smaller because I have noticed that. I
Me
mean,
too.
there's a certain one that I always want lettuce in my bowl, and I have to ask like three times, can you please like take out the rice and just put in the lettuce, right? And so that's just my own little pet peeve. But part of what we saw in this article going forward was a lot of the engagement for one of the brands with digital, right?
Yes. Yes. If you think about Chipotle, and I am a frequent visitor to Chipotle, it's right across the
Hmm.
street from where I work. And I will tell you, it's not only very convenient, it's fast. And one of the key things, and this is where they really get to, because I think one of their key audiences, I was taking a look at this, it is like 18 to 24. And I'm not in that age range, I will tell you.
Yeah.
And so it's the mobile, because you could literally pay, you can place your mobile order, and the interesting thing is not that you could just place it. When you go in, they have special staff working on it. How
Right.
many times have you tried to order something mobile app and then you go in and you're waiting,
Hmm.
forever? And they've got a system down where they're taking care of both the customers in the store, which is me, because
Yep.
I don't do the mobile app, but I feel like I get taken care of. And the mobile customers, they're taken care of as well. And I think
Yeah.
that's a key thing.
Don't you feel that that is one of the things that during COVID positioned some of these companies who embraced it to really help move forward? Because their biggest segment really of dining out for everybody right now, they're saying is Generation Z. 73% of Gen Z are heavy restaurant users, which is
Yes,
crazy. I mean, I am too because I'm lazy. I don't like to cook, but
me too.
even they're finding ways to cut back, right? And so I think that as we talked about all these mobile apps and things, you know, if you could go up and like at McDonald's, I go and they go, "Are you using your mobile app today?" And I always fall for it because I think it's a real person. It's just a recording.
Yeah,
Kills me every time.
yeah,
I start talking to them and then they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, can I help you?" I'm like, "Damn, they got me again."
exactly.
And I know it's happening, right? But what for me, I'm getting kind of mad because I love that if I gave them my mobile code, I would get my iced tea for $1. Well, now they got rid of that option. So now it doesn't matter where I go. Today was to Portillo's. I'm not getting $1 iced tea at McDonald's anymore. So I get a little chapped when they make these offers, they have these promos, and they get rid of them.
Right.
But most people aren't like me. They're not impatient. Most people love that stuff. And what we had talked about, which I think is crazy, is that that's not at all what Texas Roadhouse's model is.
No, I mean, they don't, again, if you take a look at their audience, because I was looking that up,
Mm-hmm.
Kristin, you don't fall there, but it's over like I think 64 or something like that. It's more of the more seasoned people. That's
Easy, yeah.
their so that audience in general, they're not about digital, but they really define value in a different way. So it's not about the coupons, which you might think
Right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more about the whole different business model of service. They
Right.
talk about legendary service,
They sure do.
and they're all about priding themselves on food quality, friendly service, guest satisfaction. And
Well,
and that's what's made them stand out.
I will say, in terms of speed to get my food and the level of service, I like to sit at the bar because there's a lot going on. I can watch the TVs, listen to the music, and watch the funny videos and stuff all at the same time because the ADHD is just fed perfectly in that environment, right? But I'll just order. Next thing you know, there's somebody coming up behind me with my food, and I'm like, whoa, already? Like, I didn't even get my taste buds ready. It's really fast. They're all really friendly. And the best part about it is when somebody has a birthday, they get to sit on the saddle. Have you
There you
seen that?
go.
Have you got to do that, Karen? Because I know you don't go there, but I think
I've never been,
yeah.
but I will tell you now, reading this, and now the saddle just sent me over the edge. I'm gonna have to go. Just got.
I was thinking Ray and I are going to take you there for your next birthday. We're going to take you there in his big old Suburban. We're going to get you on the saddle.
I love it.
Video over the whole thing.
Yeah. So, but if you think about this, that is, I think even, whether it's Chipotle, whether it's Texas Roadhouse, it is about, don't you think, really trying to hone in on what's important to people.
Yes.
And I think some of these brands don't do that.
Yeah.
And then they're cutting people. The food's not that good and it's overpriced. And then they're wondering why they're not doing as well. I'm not saying everybody, but I really applaud these two brands for really focusing on kind of thinking about value in a different way and then just driving that value home to the customers.
Well, and the one value I'll end with this is that one thing I really like about going to Texas Roadhouse is they all have those shirts that say, I love my job. Now, okay, they're forced to pay to wear that, I'm sure, but it really does make you think like, oh, wow, I wonder how much they really like it. And my kids have friends who work at Chipotle. They love it, not just for the free food, but again, that's about getting your staff, getting them involved, whether it's through feeding them when they're working, whether it's through these fun shirts and they get to sing and hoop and holler and be crazy all day. I mean, that's building that environment where people want to be. And when the employees are having fun, the employees are nice, the consumers want to be there too.
Absolutely.
So, well, hats off to consumers. Jeez Louise. I told you I'm sick. To Chipotle
and to one of those days.
And to Texas Roadhouse. If I had a cowboy hat, I'd tip it to you. But great job, and hopefully the best of luck for strong fourth quarter sales as well.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back with Chris Coleman and True North Restoration after this.
Hey, franchise owners. How's your local marketing? Do you feel like you could use some help keeping up with your social media posts and comments and reviews? Do you wonder if you could be doing more to attract local customers? Are you able to identify new move-ins to your local area? At Westvine, we help franchisees like you reach more local customers through digital marketing. With daily monitoring, creative content, and ad placement, and customer data intelligence, we'll get your business in front of the people who want your products or services. We also work with franchisors who need an agency to handle the digital marketing for all of their locations. If you're ready to reach more local customers, give us a call at 805-265-5440 or visit us at westvine.com. That's 805-265-5440 or westvine with a y.com.
And welcome back to another episode of Pillars of Franchising. And as promised, today we bring you Chris Coleman, who's not only the CEO, but the founder of True North Restoration. And I have to tell you, Chris, I love talking to founders because there's something bigger that drives you? Not that all CEOs don't have something that drive you, but when you found a company and you go into franchising it, there's like this overwhelming passion that tends to spill out from your pores. Tell us who you are, how you got here, and all about that crazy passion you have.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be on the show here. Just real quick, I went through when you invited me to be on. I went back and looked at some of the people that you've had on this podcast in the past and thought, oh my goodness, this is an amazing company. What did I do to deserve this invitation? So some of the people that I'll honestly say that I learned a lot about franchising from the people that you've interviewed before here. So again, thanks for having me. And quick correction, I'm not the CEO, I'm the CFO, Chief Franchise Officer, but yes, one of the co-founders of True North Restoration. You almost gave me a raise here real quick.
Well, you are the founder, so really, I mean, you should be the guy making the money, right?
So yeah, we've got some amazing people, and there certainly is more than me that founded this company. But yeah, it's great to be with you, and an honor to share a little bit more about True North with you.
That's awesome. So Karen and I were talking about your brand as well, of course, before the interview, about what a big market you have. Well, let's before I get into that, I've skipped right past it. How did you come about with True North, and what really drove you to franchise a model like this?
Yeah, so I probably got a little bit of an interesting background when it comes to, being a franchise founder, because for 12 years, I was actually a franchise consultant / broker, whatever term you want to use there. Mm-hmm. So I had what I thought was a really unique perspective, because franchisors would come to the conferences and all the events that I would be at. And it was almost like they were lobbyists and saying, "Hey, this is why you pitch me to your clients."
Yes.
So I got to see like the really, really good stuff, and I got to see some of the ugly stuff in franchising.
Yeah.
And for many years that I was with the FranNet organization, uh-huh. And I even had the opportunity to be on their inventory committee. So when a young franchisor was wanting to grow and leverage broker networks, we would get a first crack at them and give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down if they were a fit for broker groups. So yeah, I got to see a lot of different things, and the time just came around when a dear friend of mine, Jay Peters, he had started this company years back in the 80s, at 1985. But we took what he had started, hadn't fully developed into a franchise model, and took my experience in franchising and a couple other business partners, Justin and Raymond Donat, their brothers out of Colorado, and they have a strong restoration background. And Jay said, "Hey, I've got some guys that I've trained in this space. Kind of some of them are doing restoration, some of them were doing carpet cleaning. So we kind of we flipped their model, we flipped their name, we made them become franchisee. We didn't make them; they joined us, obviously. We made them sign, all the paperwork, obviously, but they joined us. It was 6 people, 6 existing businesses were our first 6 franchisees, and they all signed with us over a course of about 6 months.
Wow.
So we had a quick little ramp up, and so that's kind of the 30,000 foot view of how True North got started.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I love it because, especially when you had all this background. And so that means you must be really bullish on franchising.
Very, yeah. Right? I grew up in franchising. My dad and uncle, you were talking about food. My dad and uncle owned several pizza franchises growing up.
Okay. Yeah.
And so my first exposure into franchising was a busboy, an unpaid busboy, I think, actually. Yeah. So I got to play pole position in my dad's restaurant. That was my pay. Or the Bear Claw, they opened it up for me at the end of the night. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. Oh, go ahead, Kristin. Go ahead. I bet you're going to ask the same question I am.
I'll go ahead.
Then, talking about, right? It was about exactly. We were talking about. So you've entered this industry, and this industry has so many big players in it, and that's got to be pretty daunting. So how do you differentiate yourself from others?
Well, the thing that is amazing about franchising, and with you guys on the call here, this just as well as anybody. Franchising, you have competitors, but you don't at the same time, because franchising, the industry is just, how can I help you? Now, to some extent, there's a little bit of, love you with the elbows out, but there's, it's really interesting. Even some of our competitors, when I went to them because I knew a lot of our competitors, because I had shown their brands as a consultant over the years. I helped put people into restoration franchises. So yes, I was bullish on the industry. But when I went to some of the competitors that I've known, established relationships with, they just kind of reached out and said, "Hey, I can help you. We'll get you started." There's, when you put all the restoration companies together, and you take the big names out there, we call them the green guys and the yellow guys. Yeah, they're the big ones.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say their names out loud, but
right.
I hold them in high regard. But even with them having almost 4,000 locations, and then everybody else, lumped together, we still collectively in franchising only do a little more than 20% of the restoration work out there. So there's a lot of room for growth. And even the competitors say, come on in, there's room in this space for good franchise companies in restoration.
Well, I would think, especially after you have some of these natural disasters and you have such a dense population of people who are impacted. I mean, those send your staffing models off the charts. And so the more people who can do what you do is, critical at those points in times.
Oh yeah, great point. And we've got great relationships with many of our competitors where we call them up and say, "Hey, are you like with the fires that happened in Maui, just absolutely devastating stuff that happened there. Are you guys going?" Well, there's not a lot for restoration companies to do there. It was just total destruction. So just, like I said, horrible what happened there. But other scenarios, you take like, a hurricane that hit Fort Myers last fall. We were working with other ones like, "Hey guys, we're busy. We can't, we're a young franchise. All of our franchisees are here and we're maxed out. Do you want some leads and referrals?" And we take care of each other.
That's awesome. So how do you differentiate yourself? Because again, as a broker, like I would want to know as a broker, how do I position you against some of the other guys, the green guys, the yellow guys, to make your brand really stand out?
Yeah, no, good question. It's interesting because, we all use the same drying techniques for the most part. We're all trained by the IICRC and have those certifications. We use the same equipment. It comes from the same places. It's just sometimes they're different colors. So you're right. How do you differentiate yourself? What we do is, I would say that there's a handful of things that make us a differentiator. I would say one of the things that draws a lot of people to us as a franchise candidate is just the fact that we're a faith-based company. So that is something, that's who we are. It's certainly not a qualifier for franchise ownership. But we do have some practices that we say, hey, we open a lot of our meetings with our franchisees even in prayer, and it's it's not for everybody, but it's who we are. So I would say that's a differentiator. Where there's a lot of franchises out there that are, but I've been told that we wear it on our sleeve a little bit more, which, hey, again, that's who we are. So that's one thing that kind of makes us a little different. Another thing that makes us a little different, and this is where the franchise consultant, background comes into play for me. Now that I'm on this side of the fence, we don't go out and do 3 packs, 10 packs, 400 packs.
Yeah.
Now that might make we have done 1 3-pack out of 16 locations. And that was for a extremely high qualified, person that just it was ready to sink a lot of money into it, hire a lot of people. Right. But we try to really focus on single territory development. I forget who. I think I was talking to a franchise attorney, probably 10 years ago or so, and I heard a stat on, the number of sold but not open franchises that are out there. And I know the SBNO, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. What are the state regulators looking for this year? Um,
Exactly.
so, that kind of drove me nuts. And I saw that, early on as a franchise consultant, that a lot of my clients weren't opening up number 3 and 4 and 5. And it just kind of sat really wrong with me. And I thought, let's just kind of focus on giving somebody really, strong territories. So our territories are a little bit bigger than most of our competitors. So that was really kind of a focus. And we also want to try and help them drive a lot of revenue through that. So we do allow our franchisees to take on some larger, we like to call it large loss or catastrophe work, where some of our competitors would say, no, you have to hand that off to maybe a sister company or a more mature franchisee. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll partner up a newer franchisee with the mature franchisee to run a large loss, because that helps them scale the business pretty quickly usually. So
Interesting. And
that's another differentiator there.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that some of those ask that their franchisees at a certain point use a sister company, whatever. And that's our, because I'm part of the Neighborly brands, right? So we've got all kinds of brothers and sisters and neighbors out there that we refer back and forth. So it's actually a very interesting point that you make. For people who are out there who want to talk to Chris about this, I just want to remind you all that our phone number to call in is 323-580-5755. Again, to call in and speak with Chris or one of us is 323-580-5755. Karen, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. It's interesting because I wanted to kind of play on even, when you were talking about just the what'd you call it, like some of the larger events or whatever that they take care of. And then I think about one skill that they probably need is to be collaborative, right? Because you're also talking about all the franchisees working together. So if I think about that and we talk about what are some of the kind of skills or the types of franchisees that are people that make great franchisees, some of the skills that they have that you're looking for.
Yeah. And one of the first ones for us, and a lot of times you hear franchisors say, oh, we're looking for, this or that, or somebody that's a heavy driver is going to go out marketing thing. First thing we really kind of eye in on is empathy, because when we're coming across people that have their home or their business damaged, it might be one of the worst days of their lives. You come home, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, it's when people go on vacation and they're gone for 5 to 7 days, they come back with a leak started 30 minutes after they left the house, and their homes are just destroyed. So empathy is something that we are always looking for. We can train on making sure that you get get the water out and you get the humidity, you get the environment stabilized. We can train them on that, but it's hard to train on people caring. You know what I mean?
So true.
So that's really one of the things that we really focus in on in our franchise development and our process that we take people through.
So you talked about a little bit how you really work to make sure, and I love the idea that, we always talk about, let's do it right the first time with one unit, and then you can expand, right? Rather than that whole buying a 3-pack, a 10-pack, it really does make me sad, because people are so eager, right? And some come in thinking they're going to change the world, and some come in going, oh, it's so easy. It's, this is a semi-absentee business. I can do this. And then, as you said, they never get those other businesses open. And we've dealt with a few people like that. So when you look at kind of the average unit volume of some of your franchise locations, what are you looking at? What should people kind of wrap their brains about how much business they're going to be doing? Because your tickets are pretty large, right?
Yeah, they can be real large. In our industry, it's not uncommon that somebody that's got even some minor damage in their home, it's $2,000-$3,000, and a lot of times it's closer to $10,000. But it's not uncommon to see things that are 6 figures. So the bigger the home, or a condominium type or apartment situations, things that have multiple stories, multiple tenants. The tickets can be pretty big, and we're in an industry where there's some really good margins, within our system and in our item 19. And that was from when we just really first got started. We've got some pretty strong numbers. I think 1.367 ish million. So yeah. So that those are the numbers. But that, like I said, that was only 8 of our locations when we first started getting up and getting running. We've since doubled in size, and I can't wait for our new item 19 to come out in the spring.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, I'm calling my franchise attorney, like, can we do it
quicker?
An amendment? Can I do a note real quick or something on this? Because
It's always fun when you're thinking that way. That's great.
It is, yeah. So
yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit, anything that's disclosed in the FDD where people are like, this sounds really good. I'd love to do it. Great unit sales, but what can I actually make off of it?
Yeah. So, well, we don't have any nets in that. So I'm
right.
Almost, I've been coached by my attorney, not to say.
But your gross margins are around.
Yeah. No, gross and net, I think it's fairly safe to say you can even go out and Google this and find it, or chat GPT it. I don't know what the verb will be there in 5 years from now. Google so yesterday.
Yeah,
but,
right.
It's pretty common in our industry that a business can net 20-25% if they run a clean business.
That's good, because a lot of people, they think about, not only do they have the money to invest, which will be our next cue for the question, but sure. do they have enough money to invest? Do they have enough money to survive until they're at break even, right? And then really, what kind of income should they expect to replace if they're giving up their corporate job or, some other job to buy into this? So I think it's always really important to have those honest conversations. So people say, well, in some of these industries, you invest, $100,000, and for the first 3 years, you might make $25,000. Well, that's a bad deal, when you're giving up an $80,000 a year job. So, So in a roundabout way, I appreciate you answering that so that we could kind of get to that point. So can you tell us, what does somebody need to have to invest in a True North restoration?
Yeah. So we put together an $80,000 liquidity requirement and a $250,000 net worth requirement. Now those are pretty low numbers when you look at. And I've worked with thousands of people over the course of the last 15 years that have been interested in buying a franchise as a consultant. So I know that there's a lot of people out there that's like, hey, that's a fairly low bar, but it's not for everybody. So what we do, and we tend to be an equipment heavy business. We don't have tons of employees and high payrolls, things like that. We don't have retail locations, so it's a fairly low investment. Overall, I like to block things off. We're a $100,000 to $200,000 investment roughly. Our item 19 will show under, or our investment shows under. It's like, I think it's actually 93 to 187. Yeah. But in reality, somebody's probably going to get into this type of a business and spend 125, 150 to get going. Yeah. I think one of the other things that really attracted me to this industry is that you can start really, really lean with a small location, even a small equipment package, and the jobs, as you land a job, you can say, okay, I don't have enough. I'm going to say yes to the job. And I know that I can have, the 6 dehumidifiers that I need, within 24, 48 hours from a supplier. And we put all those things in place and have negotiated rates for our franchisees to be able to scale up very quickly. That's awesome. And even from a large law standpoint, if they need to scale up, we have some national relationships on the temporary staffing as well. So able to,
how long does it take to get someone then to get their business to break even? Because you're talking they scale up fast. What would that length of time be?
Yeah, we've had franchisees do it in month 1.
Wow.
So yeah, so average though, right?
Right.
It's always good
average.
It's always good to throw the Hail Mary and show the catch in slow motion. Like, yeah, that's great. But no, it's on average, I think you can see in the industry, again, it's not in our item 19, but it's very common if you just do some simple search online, that if you run real lean business to get started, and that's what we coach our franchisees to do, you can break even in 3 to 6 months.
Wow, that's awesome.
So again, kind of coming back to some of the higher margins, the higher tickets that we run, and like I said, a low labor model, and the ability to scale real quickly. And like I said, we're not collecting on a lot of franchise fees. We're actually saying, save that money, use it for marketing. Save that money, use it for equipment or something else.
That's awesome.
Really, I'm interested. So I started thinking about this because you said that they don't need that many employees, and they don't. So then, are they truly a franchisee that is working in the business? I mean, they're the ones then that are there on location, kind of doing some of the work, or kind of tell me how does that work? Because some franchisees will say, as Kristin said, they just want to be kind of absent. This isn't obviously this isn't a type of franchise like that, but are they the ones that are on call 24/7? Are they the ones that are there?
Yeah, no, good question. And I would even say, is there actually a single semi-absentee franchise out there?
Okay, yes, we agree with that.
We
agree.
I used to teach a class in St. Louis at one of the local colleges, in partnership with the SBA and SBDC in that market, and it was about semi-absentee franchising, and I challenged that because franchisors have gotten very, very loose with that term. I would say in the last 5 to 10 years.
We do agree.
Even more so, I'd say the last 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's their marketing, right?
Yeah, they are. They're selling, and that's it's good to grow, but do it ethically too. So, Karen, you asked a question, and I went down a rabbit hole, and
that's okay. That's okay. I
hear your question again,
because we're always trying to figure that out too. Because people talk about that, and then how you were describing this, I'm like, no, this is somebody that really.
Oh yeah, the owner's role
in the business.
Yes.
Yeah. So, we do have the ability, a little bit of a hybrid option. So some of our franchisees will want to, just kind of be in the trenches. And let's be honest, we're not in a glamorous business. When pipes back up and basements fill up, and it's not glorious until you get paid. But so a lot of people that are have been high up in the food chain and the C-suite, they might not find what we do very appetizing. But we do want them to really have an understanding of what the business is like, but we want to get them out, if they do go into that, as a little bit more hands-on in the beginning with just 2 or 3 employees. We want to get them out of that role pretty quickly and help them, I know it's cliche to say it, but work on the business, not in it. Yep. But that's really what we want them to do. Mm-hmm. But we do have the ability to help somebody who is, maybe has the ability financially to come in, hire a general manager, hire some marketers, hire project managers, lead technicians, things like that. They want to scale that. And we've got one franchise location that we're doing that with right now as well. But that gives them the ability not to be in the trenches, not to be there answering the phone 24/7. But like I said, this is a business that can scale pretty quickly. So, our goal is to get them out of that role.
Well, 17 years ago, when I chose my cleaning toilets job, I will say that one of the businesses that my broker pitched me was restoration. And I had come out of the home improvement industry. People were freaking out because they're having a kitchen remodel that didn't finish on time, right? And, companies coming, and I was like, oh my gosh, kind of traumatized. So when she talked about restoration, I thought, oh my gosh, I can't go into this situation where people are like freaking out on me 24/7 because these disasters are really, devastating, right? Totally different than your countertops aren't in. You have to put that in perspective for people. But one of the other restoration companies we talked about, I had told him my opinion, and he was like, yeah, but that's not how people see you when you arrive after a disaster. Can you tell me a little bit about what that's like when your team arrives to a home after they've had a disaster? What's that interaction like?
Yeah, when you think about it, it's their castle has been invaded. It's been damaged. Their life is in disarray. Down to, are we going to be able to make dance class or baseball practice on time? Because, it's like everything is just, bees are buzzing. Yeah. And so that's where, it's kind of to come back to the empathy thing in our process. And we're looking for that. be able to come in and just say, hey, it's okay. I know this is your world and it's been flipped upside down, but today it's Thursday. It's Thursday for us. This
and
is
we're
what we
here to
do.
help you, right?
We got your back. If they're comfortable, we'll put our hand on their shoulder. We'll say, hey, it's okay. We got this. It's going to be just fine. And just to comfort them in that. But, I would say there's a piece of this business that is very much counseling.
Yeah. You kind of walk in with an S on your chest, right? You're like the
I don't know if we've
Superman
earned that
coming to save the
designation
day.
yet.
It's true.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think
and it's interesting you mentioned that, because there's a lot of time, like especially when we get to catastrophe situations, that's on a whole nother level, when it's not just their castle that has been damaged, it's the entire community. I'll never forget, I had a really impactful moment last year when we were down in Fort Myers at the hurricane. We were working sometimes we keep our own projects, just the True North headquarters. We had a large condo complex right on the beach in Fort Myers. And I was taking a break and just kind of looking around, and across the street where these homes are located, I see a lady sitting there, and she's got one of those, those plastic chairs you can get at the dollar store when they stack,
Yep.
what ones I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It was really kind of all she had left, and she's just moving it around and trying to place it, but kind of in a little bit of a zombie, mode.
Yeah.
Like, her world was just completely destroyed. I don't know if she lost pets. I don't know if she lost a family member. I don't know.
Right.
But you're going into it, and it can be, like I said, there's a little bit of a counseling component that can be involved in what we do.
I have to think that some of the faith-based threads that you kind of weave through your company have to help with that a little bit. I mean, you think
Indeed.
about people who 1 minute are on the top of top of the world, they're living at the beach, and within a moment they're homeless.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
can't prepare for that,
And,
No.
No explanation for it.
Exactly. So who calls you? Is it the insurance companies, or who do you even market to? Is thinking about, so someone has, because usually I know when I've had flooding, which is terrible. I mean, that's just, you're right. It just turns everything upside down. And
Sure.
So who I called, like, my insurance company. So is that what happens typically?
Yeah, a lot of times, that's a situation where, we're a referred partner because the insurance agent or adjuster or somebody knows us and trusts us,
Right.
and therefore will refer us or one of our franchisees in their communities. Sometimes it's plumbers, because sometimes you got a fountain running in your basement or in your house. Who do you call first? It's probably not us. You're probably thinking, just get the plumber to turn this off.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
There's
And
a lot
that's
of different.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we work with a lot of property maintenance people across the country, facilities managers, things like that.
So because I've been working in toilets, I'm like, hey, this isn't really a bad deal. And I'm sure Ray's thinking, wow, maybe we should have done something like this, right? But it makes me think, like, oh gosh, don't tell me it happened to me just like it happened to you, where my brain goes blank. Oh, I know. There's got to be a lot of knowledge that I need to learn as a new business owner in True North Restoration. What can you just kind of give me a brief overview of what would my training look like? Because I'm excited. I mean, I think it sounds like a good value business to buy into. It's something people are always going to need, so very consistent in the services segment. But there's got to be a lot I have to learn.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn, and you can't learn it all at once, so it has to be absorbed. This and any other businesses, any other franchise, when you're surrounded by experts and other franchisees who are wanting to help you be successful too, it certainly is a drinking from the fire hose type of thing. But in franchising, you've got a lot of, again, good support in place and other franchisees. That's one of the things that we've actually really tried to put together and emphasize. When I had studied all the different franchise systems, and even as a franchisee myself, I recognized that some of the value in the royalty that I was paying every month wasn't just the support I was getting from the franchisor, but just to have access to all the other franchisees. So we've tried to make it really a part of the training and support and just the comfort level of franchisees, new ones, being able to reach out to the mature ones. Certainly we do all the training. They come to St. Louis at our headquarters and do a full-blown training with Ray Donat, our trainer, who's started 2 True North locations himself. So, we do a lot of that. And then there's even third-party training that people will go through just to get that certification that is recognized by the insurance industry. So, but you can kind of break some of that stuff up so that you can, take it in smaller chunks.
Awesome. And I'm sure people could find all that information in your FDD if they're interested in looking at True North. Can you tell me, just as the last question, what is the one section in your FDD that you think people really should sink their teeth into and read that would be most impactful when making a decision to buy True North Restoration?
Yeah. Well, as a franchise consultant for years, I always heard people say, "Oh, item 19 is the most important. Oh, item 6. Oh, item 7."
Yeah.
Item 20, baby. Talk to the franchisees. Awesome. And we make our franchisees so accessible to franchise candidates. And our franchisees are excited to talk and they share. We have, structured calls where they can talk about a bunch of things. They have one-on-one calls where they talk about everything, especially financials. But item 20 in ours, we have, I'm just proud of our franchisees, obviously, and I'm gonna sing their praises all day long because they are True North. We get to, have the logo. Hold on, reverse over here. We get to have the logo and we get to market. We get to do fun stuff like this. But at the end of the day, True North is our franchisees.
I love it.
Wow, that is so awesome. I've got little chills because really there's not a lot of founders who will say, you know what, we are successful because of the franchisees. I've heard people say, oh, if you're a founder, be prepared because your franchisees will never work as hard as you do. And I'm thinking, really? I don't know. I work pretty hard. So I think that's great. I think that really speaks volumes about you and the company that you and your partners have built. And I want to thank you so much for being on today. If people want to chat with you or your fabulous friend, Stephanie Ryan, who I love, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So easiest way is just to, gotruenorth.com. So go True North, baby. Yeah, but yeah, right. Stephanie is on the leading edge of, talking to all of our candidates. She is absolutely amazing. She's just fantastic. And she doesn't sell. She just teaches and she says, hey, we're all big boys and girls and you can decide if we're a fit or not. So
you nailed that right on the mark.
I love the culture. I love the culture that you've built.
Yeah.
And,
thank you.
Just some of the values you've brought into it. That's wonderful.
Yeah. We wish you all the best. And, hopefully in 2024 will be a great year for you. And towards the end of next year, we'll be having you on again to talk about how you've catapulted past your goals for the upcoming year.
I'd love to give you that update.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us, Chris. We'll be right back.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back with Ray Pillar after this.
50 graduates resulting in 7 new franchisees owning 8 franchise brands, more than a dozen skilled graduates who are employees of franchise companies, all of them having earned a concentration in franchising exclusively granted by the Titus Center at Palm Beach Atlantic University, plus more than 80 franchise professionals on our advisory board. The Titus Center for Franchising is on fire in West Palm Beach, Florida. What do you need to join us? My students want to hear from you. They may even want to buy your franchise or work for your company. TitusCenter.com.
And there was our good friend, Mr. Dr. John Hayes. Can I say Mr. Doctor? I think it's just Dr. John Hayes, right, Ray?
I think so.
Hey, welcome back. We haven't seen or heard from you in
I know. And it's great to be back. I think the meeting that we had yesterday at JL's office was fantastic. It was great to see all the wonderful franchise owners there, including a new fella that came on board recently.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I want to talk about is I was under the impression when I was looking at a franchise 20 years ago that it was kind of cutthroat. And it's what I've learned is not. It's absolutely the opposite. I mean, we all help each other out, even different brands.
For sure.
it's amazing because we're all entrepreneurs and business owners, and our goal is, of course, is to make money, and
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. Well, not quite, but
Well, I want to make sure I clarify for people who are like, what in the heck's he talking about? JL's office and a new owner. So one of the things that Chris had referenced, our company tends to do really well as well, and that is building teamwork and camaraderie. And what Ray was referencing that we had yesterday was a co-op meeting of all the Chicago Molly Maid owners. And so we come together quarterly to talk about, local marketing strategies and any issues that are going on with staffing and all kinds of different stuff, whether it would be, yesterday we talked about insurance and how to leverage our group to get better rates and chemical supplies and all of that stuff that your franchisor helps with. Yes. But then as a local market, you can do. So, just wanted to make sure you all understood that is yet another benefit to franchising that you don't have if you're your own business owner. Often you are that cutthroat with the guy with the shop across the street, and in franchising you're all in it together, and I think that makes a big difference. So thanks for pointing that out, Ray.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the new owner, Scott, he asked me, what do I need to do? What can you do as a new owner? And I said, well, first of all, watch Pillars.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Out there. And then I said, I was unequivocally, you can ask any one of us that are in this room right now for help, and they will help you with
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't even have to ask them, will you help them? No, I know everyone will help.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
well, I'm surprised. I thought you would have told him that building his culture and retention were his number one goals, because that's really what you normally say, right?
Employee retention is what I want to talk about. And the reason I want to do is because we're celebrating our 20th year this month.
Wow.
And I walked into the office. I was gone for 6 weeks, and barely talked to anybody in the office. I mean, my crew is fantastic. They run that office as if I was there, but I'm not. So they did a fantastic job. But I walked into the office, and a lot of the employees were there. Ray, it's good to see you. It was fantastic. And a young lady who's been there for 18 years came up to me and gave me a hug and said, it's good to see you.
And 18 years of cleaning toilets and really other people's the messes that nobody else at home wants to clean up, and this gal has been there for 18 years. Wow.
Yeah, and she loves her job. I know she does. As so many of the employees that we have. And of course, with 40 employees and going through COVID, we had some people leave, but still there's the core that's been there for a long time. And I think it's interesting to watch employees come in and apply for the job, because we post pictures of all the employees all around the room, and they'll walk in and they'll say, "Oh, I know her. I know her." And she lives a couple of doors down. So it's kind of neat to see that. And we're going to be celebrating, of course, Thanksgiving. We celebrate it with a potluck every year. And then the managers, I'm going to take the managers out this coming week and celebrate our 20-year anniversary.
Awesome. Well, and tell me, what do you think attributes to keeping people like her for such a long period of time? What are some of the things that you do to really help retention, or what other people might be able to easily apply?
We can. I think the best way to describe our office, our culture in the office is really good. But we're transparent. We don't hide anything. There's nothing to hide, And it's funny. I think that any one of the employees knows that they can talk to any one of the managers, including myself. If I'm in, the door is always open. And sometimes some of the employees rather talk to me rather than their direct manager, which is fine. I don't care. But I may ask, did you speak to so and so about this situation? She says, no, I didn't feel comfortable doing that. I want to talk to you. fine.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Yeah.
We love it.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on 20 years. I can't believe, I mean, I'm behind you a couple of years, but not far.
Yeah, I know.
And I want to point out for everybody who, when you hear Ray's been gone for 6 weeks and he hasn't talked to anybody in the office, I don't call that semi-absentee for Ray. That's just semi-retirement, right?
Okay.
And your exit strategy, as we talk about a lot, and we're going to have someone on here in the next couple of weeks talking about, beginning with the end in mind, and nod to you, Karen, over there, but making sure that when you buy your franchise, you also understand when the time comes to move on, what does that look like? And for you, Ray, you've chosen to integrate your sons into your business to ensure that when you're gone, you've got that baton, and it creates generational wealth. You can pass that baton down and know that the business is safe and secure right as you left it.
Yes. And that's not easy to do sometimes, but because you hear of a lot of people who are selling their businesses after 1 or 2 generations down. And then you also hear one that's been coming from New England. When I say coming from off vacation, we were talking to some people who have been in 17 the farms that have been in their family for 17 generations. So
tell me about it. I'm watching Yellowstone. I'm hooked, and he just had that conversation.
Yeah.
So,
you know what I'm talking about, and so it can happen, but you've got to work at it, just like anything else. Just like keeping your employees, you've got to work at it. Chris mentioned faith-based, and that's what we are in our office. And I know that not every one of our offices are that way, and not every one of our employees are that way. So some of them will bow their heads when we pray in the beginning of a meeting, and some will walk around and do whatever they have to do. They're free to do that. We don't say everybody has to pray at every time we have a prayer. So and I think that's an important part of it, because I know that I owe a lot to my faith in my business and its success. So I want to share that. And I think that's one of the reasons God put me on this earth, is to help share that.
Well, I know you do a great job up there, because, you just don't have employees with that long of tenure doing the jobs that they're doing, and they stick around. So I want to thank you for always being such a great mentor on the show and in person. And you're one of the people that I got to know when I first bought. So you certainly, when you talk about this on the show, you're not just talking about it, you actually walk the talk. So I appreciate that about you, and I hope you have a great week. And I think Fred's going to wrap us up here really soon. And there we go. It's wrapped, is what that means when it's just me. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us on the show today. Be sure to stay tuned next week as we return with our contributor segments. We've got Jerry Akers, who will be coming back after quite some time on the road working with some emerging brands. He's got some exciting things to talk about on that front, as well as some involvement that he's had with IFA and, of course, Washington, D.C. I'd like to thank all of our Million Dollar mentors who have franchise news and bring it to us every week, from Ray Pillar to Karen Kimsey-Sward, Jerry Akers, and of course, Laura Liss, our franchise lawyer that is on staff and will be back joining us again soon, and all that they do. And a special shout out to Fred McMurray, who without him, this show would not be on over 40 different platforms, beginning on Fridays at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube, and beyond then, any channel that you happen to look for podcasts, you will find us. So don't be afraid to take a look and see where you might find us next, from Apple to help me out, Audible, or any of those others. So I apologize for coming to you sick today, but I hope you have a great week. Thank you again. This has been an episode of Pillars of Franchising.
Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all the good ones.
Thank you. I'm running out of words and voice. Thank you all. I'll see you next week.